Rochester and streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Ambers. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Gene's a big-timer, a social misfit. Clueless to the title of the biggest buskeg hits. Chuck Munchie's goons have the last say. So thanks for your time, Mr. Mayo. Danger likes his cold ones and he likes his bears. But this is Rochester, cute Francesa.
Oh, who cares?
He's critical of Sean, he's critical of Alan. Of course he married Sandy, cause she's Italian. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Yes, it is a game night here on the Fan Rochester. The sports bar is open. Welcome on in. I'm Mike Danger. That's Gene Battaglia. The Bills set to take on the Dolphins tonight in Miami. That kickoff is coming up just after 8 o'clock, and pregame coverage coming up here at 4 o'clock.
8:15, so 4-hour and 15-minute pregame show.
That's what we do for you.
Yes, that's what we do for you here in the sports bar. And if you weren't aware, TV side tonight, it is on Amazon. How many people are going to be like, where's the game? I forgot.
You'll have a way. Everybody finds a way, even if it means going out to your favorite watering hole to watch the Bills. We're excited. We are also divided on how we think this game is going to go in the sports. We don't always agree on every single game or every single pick.
Yeah.
And this is one of those weeks where I think Gene and I see things a little bit differently. And even as recently as yesterday, Gene gave his pick yesterday saying that he had Miami winning this game.
Yeah, and you yesterday on this show said, well, I'm going to give my take tomorrow on the breaker room, but I'm still not sure. So what swayed you in the direction of the Bills here?
I think that, first of all, the Bills have just owned Miami. Like, I look at the complete domination in this series, and it feels reminiscent to what New England used to do to the rest of the AFC East, right? You maybe get a win every couple of years, but it's just one-sided. And it's been one-sided in the Tua era and beyond. Tua 1-5 as a starter for the Dolphins against the Buffalo Bills. We all know about the success Josh Allen has had against Miami, a team that has won 11 of their last 12 against the Dolphins, the Buffalo Bills. And then we spent a lot of time yesterday also talking about vibes around the teams that are successful, vibes around the teams that are not successful. And I'm not saying that Miami is not a successful team. They very well may be a playoff team. But I think right now the vibes are just a little bit better in Buffalo than they are in Miami.
How so? Miami's 1-0.
I'm talking about all of the distractions off the field.
Oh, you're talking about
everything that's going on around the team. It's kind of ugly.
They won that game last week. I mean, if they had an excuse last week, like what was that? I'm not going to put anything. I hear what you're saying. But to me, this is the one question I want to answer tonight. And if the Bills have an answer for this, if Sean McDermott has an answer for this, Bobby Babich, Jalen Waddle in the slot against Cam Lewis. That is an A-plus concern for me on that side of the ball. To me, okay, we're going to take that away. Then you have Hill on the outside. These games you're mentioning last year, sure, the Dolphins were point per point, but I look at that Week 18 game last year, and Tyreek Hill was on one leg, and the Dolphins were kind of beat up. I can certainly see. I'm not going to discredit you and say, this is the NFL. Strange things happen, and it would certainly not be strange of the Buffalo Bills. They have the track record to go down there and win. But to me, this is a tough spot on a short week for Buffalo. They're the ones having to get on the plane. They're the ones that didn't get the full practice in. They're the ones who are down two major pieces on their defense, and I'm counting Matt Milano here, and that's why I don't think there's any shame tonight in losing to the Dolphins in week 2. People aren't going to be happy, but
I know you. I know you well enough. You're nervous about Cam Lewis because you can't get that image of Justin Jefferson posterizing him from years ago. You can't remember what happened last week when he came in a reserve role and got 10 tackles playing in Taron Johnson's slot corner position there. I'm not as concerned about Cam Lewis. I am concerned about the overall secondary, yes. But Cam Lewis specifically, I don't think Cam Lewis specifically is a concern. I think he's been here long enough. He knows where he needs to be. And so much of this offense, this Sean McDermott's defense is just knowing where you need to be and being disruptive while being where you need to be. I'm looking for Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones to be more of a factor in this game than they were in week 1, to get that push up the middle, to be disruptive and to break Tua's rhythm. We know how fast he wants to get the ball out of his hands and into the hands of his playmakers. And I think if that happens, and you mentioned, being a short week and it's week 2 and they haven't gotten a lot of reps, I think it's an under for this game. I think the over-under was at 48.5, I think the last time I checked. I've got the Bills winning by 2 field goals, 20-14 tonight. I
said 10-point Dolphin win, so I guess I got to put a number on this, right? I'll go with a weird number, 32-22. All right, and also part of this too, danger is, are we completely sold on special teams for the Buffalo Bills? They gave up a touchdown last week. We saw some, like Tyler Bass.
No, just kick it out of the end zone. Just kick it out of the end zone every time. Don't even fart around with special teams. Just kick it out of the end zone every time. So there's our predictions for this evening. Later on this hour, as we lead you up to pregame here at the top of the hour, we'll check in with 13 Wham Sports and BuffaloPlus.com's Dan Fates, a little preview from his point of view.
He is in Buffalo. I saw his hit on Buffalo Plus where he literally did the stand-up on South Beach in a pink T-shirt.
Oh, so he's in Miami.
He is Miami,
okay,
down there.
Good.
So enjoying what is going to be a hot night, I think. They're saying 82 degrees kickoff. Mm-hmm. There could be thunderstorms this afternoon. You're hoping that everything is kind of cleared out, which they're saying it's going to be cleared out. But, Florida, things can kind of always pop up down there. So we'll talk to 13 Wham, Buffalo Plus. Dan Fates will get kind of the scene down in Miami for this one in week number 2. The other factor here, too, danger is, and it is another point going your direction, it's like how much of this will be a Buffalo crowd coming up in week 2? Like, you've seen other games down there where it's been 50-50.
There's some images from Bills Mafia traveling to Miami that have popped up on my feed today. And, yeah, it's, as usual, Bills Mafia traveling well and representing well. And I think a lot of them down there and expecting them to, kind of take over Hard Rock Stadium as they have in the past. So not a surprise, especially when you're talking about the time of year it is, that you can get down there, enjoy some sunshine here late in the summer, early in the fall. Not surprising to see Buffalo fans traveling down south to cheer on the Bills against the Dolphins tonight.
Yeah, it's 8:15 on Prime tonight, and you're hoping the weather will be fine. That over-under, by the way, 48.5 I'm looking at.
Yeah,
so.
I think I don't see this being a game like we saw in Buffalo early last year where the Bills won by 28. Yeah, the 48-20. I mean, maybe it's a early, back and forth where you get some points early on the board, but I think it settles down. I think it slows down. I think that the defense is kind of, they figure each other out here a little bit. I do think Josh Allen gets into the end zone. I think he finds his way to the end zone.
What if the Bills do pull this off, danger? Okay. 2-0. You're the first team to go 2-0, and you get 11 days to prepare for Jacksonville.
Yeah, and as much as I'm bullish on them winning tonight, I may not be as bullish on them beating Jacksonville at home in week 3.
Why is that?
There's a lot that can happen between now and week 3.
I view the London game in Jacksonville being.
You think that's an anomaly?
Well, I think the Bills prepared for that completely wrong. Remember all that nonsense about, you're getting on a sleep schedule and everything else? Yeah. And Baltimore's like, no, we get over there as soon as possible. And we're like, that didn't, what was it, banking sleep or whatever. It seemed like the Bills were jet-lagged in that game. It seemed like they suffered 2 major injuries, what they did in Milano and Daquan Jones that game, and it was a sloppy game for Josh Allen, and voila, it's a loss.
I just remember. And I feel like Jacksonville does this every time they play Buffalo. There's just a different level of physicality that they play with. And they recognize sometimes you can catch Buffalo napping. You can catch Buffalo not, being soft. Remember the game, the Urban Meyer game, when they lost to Jacksonville when Urban Meyer was the coach. And they had players actually saying, no, we know. We saw them. They're slouching. Their body language is bad. We knew we were going to out-physical them, and they did. And I don't know why that sticks with me. Maybe like how Cam Lewis's image being poster sticks with you. It sticks with me that I think Jacksonville, for whatever reason, I feel like they have Buffalo's number, that there's something that team can do against the Bills that the Bills struggle with. I'm not really sure why. I think that way. Now, again, a lot can happen between now and week 3. I'm not, I also said this was a Bills team that was going to win 8 games this year. So I'm not going to tell you that they're going to win every single game, but I feel good about tonight.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, yeah, you're the one who kept picking the Bills where you don't have them winning the majority of the games.
That's right. I think that there are going to be games on the schedule that look like winnable games, and then they get surprised and they lose those games. And I think week 1 was one of those games, right? They survived week 1. They got past the Cardinals. And really, when it was all said and done, like in the second half of that game, they looked like the better team. They kind of dominated the second half. You take away that kickoff return, and you're talking about a pretty significant margin of victory for the Buffalo Bills. But I do think that there are going to be some traps on this schedule, and I'm not going to say that it's going to be flowery and roses throughout the entirety of this season.
So you think even though Jacksonville was 1 game away from the postseason last year, that would be considered a trap in week 3?
I think Jacksonville's a good team. I think Jacksonville's going to win the AFC South.
Well, I'm not denying that they're a good team, but that wouldn't be a trap. That would get you to sit up straight, I would think, if they were a good team coming in. The trap game to me is like, the Colts here. Come on. That to me is a trap game. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Physical, quarterback that can make some plays potentially. I don't know. Danger. This is weird. It's like the role reversal. The world is weird here, where you, Tommy, picking the Bills here. I'm the one picking the Dolphins here.
Well, yeah, and funny, Ryan actually would pick the Dolphins as well. So I don't know. Maybe I am putting too much stock in feeling and records and recent history.
No, that's what you go off of, the recent history, the feelings and it.
Oh, you know what? There's another thing though that crossed my mind as I was trying to figure out which direction I wanted to go. And this would actually play towards the Dolphins having an advantage tonight. And that's Jordan Poyer, the Jordan Poyer factor. How much of Jordan Poyer does Miami's defense extract, as far as his knowledge of the Bills offense, Josh Allen, James Cook? How much is Jordan Poyer a factor? Not necessarily in tonight's game, but leading up to tonight's game and in the preparation for tonight's game.
Yeah, as far as Jordan Poyer on the field, I mean, can he summons enough here for one more game? I would think probably. I mean, we saw him make a play, I guess, in the loss to Kansas City in the postseason. But my concern would be, hey, when Josh Allen is doing this on the line of scrimmage, this is what is happening. Like, if Poyer can look at the film and in real time, not being the film, but being on the field and decipher what this Bills offense under Joe Brady is looking to do here, I'm wondering how much of it has actually changed since Poyer.
You have to switch up your calls and make sure that at the line of scrimmage, whatever you're shouting out isn't something that Poyer knows, or if it is something that he knows, it's a decoy, and you send him somewhere else completely. That's the preparation, the chess match in the game, inside the game, that I hope the Bills are prepared for. But Jordan Poyer, you can't tell me that going into this game he's not a factor. He's definitely a factor. I mean, they're going to tap in to that knowledge and learn as much as they can about the Bills going into it. If they're extracting that knowledge from Jordan Poyer, that might mean something tonight.
You know who's also over there? Siran Neal.
Oh, yeah.
So the Bills let Siran Neal kind of walk, opting to keep Cam Lewis. It might have just been a signability thing. It might have been money, but the idea that Siran Neal, who was kind of one of these players, and knowing that the Bills are a little shorthanded. But look, you mentioned Cam Lewis, and there's been other Cam Lewis plays. I mean, there was a play against the Dolphins, Danger, and granted, this wasn't, in the secondary, but a roughing the punter call that was just so egregious, giving the Miami a first down. Like that, those are my concerns about Cam Lewis. Yes, he burned brightly, but can he do it again back-to-back weeks? And there's a lot of publicity here. ESPN.com, our friend Elena Getzenberg, big story today on Damar Hamlin. And you're going to probably, if you tune in early tonight, the nation getting reacquainted with Damar Hamlin, the player. Like, this isn't Poyer and Hyde back there. I think we can kind of agree. This is two guys that are just holding the spot down, and one of the two will not have a job once Cole Bishop is ready to play full-time here.
Rapp had a good game Week 18 last year against the Dolphins when he was on the field. Made that, clinched the game with that interception. So I don't know. I just it feels like it's a one-sided rivalry right now, and I didn't see enough out of Miami in Week 1 to make me believe that they're going to rise up and somehow slay the dragon that is the Buffalo Bills and that has been the Buffalo Bills. So I'm leaning Bills. Gino's leaning Dolphins. We'll find out tonight. You can hear the action on the Fan Rochester kickoff at 8:15 with Brownie, with E. Wood, with Sal roaming the sidelines as well.
Sweaty night down there.
Oh, gross. Just gross. I mean, I watched, I think I mentioned this, but the BC Florida State game from a couple of weeks ago, Week 1. I think that was, what was that, the Labor Day game? I want to say the night game in Labor Day. And that's in Tallahassee. And Bill O'Brien is just sweating through his shirt. He is completely just gnarly, just nasty. I want nothing to do with that kind of humidity. 82 at 8 o'clock at night? No, thank you. Ugh.
It might be so hot tonight. Sean McDermott, does he go with short sleeves tonight? No, he will never go with not when the sun is out.
No short sleeves. Not McDermott. But, I've been trying to get my oldest daughter more into football, and she's been a little bit receptive, and she wants to learn about things, and she's kind of excited about the Bears this year. And I was showing her old footage from the NFL, and I was explaining to her how when I was, when I was young, before I became a Bears fan, like my first and earliest memories of the NFL were those Dallas Cowboys and San Francisco 49ers teams of the early 80s. I remember Drew Pearson and Danny White and Joe Montana and Dwight Clark and all. So I'm showing her some footage of the catch, the historic play made by Dwight Clark in the NFC Championship game, and there's Tom Landry wearing a suit on the sideline. And she's like, what's he wearing? I'm like, he's wearing a suit. She's like, that's awesome. I'm like, yeah, it is awesome. I wish the NFL would adopt that again, where you had the head coaches roaming the sidelines in something other than sweatpants.
Danger, how? We don't even have that in college basketball.
You don't have it anywhere anymore.
No, well, the NHL. But the NHL, but it soon's going to go away. Like in college hockey, no. Now you're going to be wearing the gear because you signed the deal with Under Armour or Nike or whoever it is. So that is the reason why you don't see Sean. It's funny, like, could you picture Sean McDermott in a suit?
No, I can't.
Well, he'd be wearing a fedora.
A fedora. He'd be looking like Tom Landry out there.
One thing about McDermott, what's the phrase, a clothes horse? He is. Like, in real life, he loves fashion. He loves to...
McDermott?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know this about him.
Oh, yeah.
I just knew he had like a wrestling mat in his basement or something like that.
Yeah.
So he's also got a big walk-in closet with all of his clothes?
Yeah, but right. So, like, he's like the anti-Belichick. Like, he would be the guy that would be come and, hey, here's an event. So I would think, actually, he might actually welcome that. Can you imagine McDermott in the suit and a fedora?
I would love it. Yeah. I thought that was so cool, and I loved her reaction to it. She couldn't wrap her mind around the idea that NFL head coaches used to wear suits on the sideline. And it was like, well, you're coming up in a society where it's perfectly normal to wear your pajamas when you go to the airport. I'm not really for it, but I see people doing it. I'm like, okay, well, that's where we are. We're that comfortable. We're going to just, we're going to wear our pajamas to the airport. We're going to wear our pajamas when we go grocery shopping. And the head coaches are going to wear sweatpants on the sideline.
Hey, it wasn't that far long ago the teams had dress codes where, like, you had to wear, you'd go on the road, suit and tie and everything. And you see players kind of walking in the stadiums now.
Well, now it's a photo op. It's a fashion opportunity. Right. And you can express yourself with the way you dress walking into a game. So that's completely changed as well. It'll be a scene tonight in Miami for Bills and Dolphins. And we're not there, obviously, but we do have friends and colleagues who are down there, and we want them to be our ears and eyes to paint, as we say, paint a picture of what's happening there as the Bills get ready to face the Dolphins tonight. And for that, we check in with guys like 13 Wham Sports and BuffaloPlus.com's Dan Fates.
Dan Fates, who is in South Florida, along with Mike Catalano, will be joining us. I don't know which way he's leaning tonight, so we will kind of get his thoughts here.
We're going to break ties with Dan Fates. Dan Fates is going to be our tiebreaker?
Yeah, all right. And I promise, I give you my word, it's a Bills game day. I'm not going to bring up the standings. I'm not going to be the one who does it. I'm doing it now just to kind of get it out of the way. The Mets are up a full game on Atlanta.
Here we go.
No, I'm just pointing this out. How exciting was that yesterday in the sports bar? And you can never call me a social misfit again, because here were the Blue Jays ready to throw a no-hitter.
This is exactly why I call you a social misfit.
I admitted on the air I was a little distracted. But to see the Mets score 6 at the top of the ninth after they were getting no hit, and just to pull out one in Toronto they didn't have any business in winning.
You were Mr. Burns. You were doing your excellent. But you were excited about the no-hitter for a period there. You were like, oh, this is great. This is a no-hitter. Even though it was against the Mets, you were kind of about it. You're like, well, it doesn't happen that often.
Right. Like, no-hitters, like, stop everything. We have a no-hitter. That's our job here in the sports bar.
Right. I just think that as that no-hitter evaporated, I just saw you change. You did. You morphed into your social misfit self.
You made me sound like a troll going.
That's what you were doing. You're like, you were all excited about the Met. You were giddy. I'm like, 30 seconds ago, you were all about the no-hitter, and now you're giddy about the Mets. Hey, look, be excited, man. Be excited. You can bring it up to Fates if you want to. I wouldn't, but you can.
I am not going to.
Okay.
Our time is going to be limited.
Our time is precious. Yeah. I really hope they don't break your heart, Gino, but we've seen this movie before. We've seen this movie many, many times.
The only thing that would break my heart was with the damn Braves or Phillies eliminating the Mets.
If they don't make the postseason.
If they don't make the postseason, or if the Mets got to the postseason and either of those two teams had the honor
my
of
fear,
finishing
like,
off.
if I were you, I would be excited about a postseason berth. If that happens, then I'd be like, oh, good, we made the postseason. Even if it's this kind of like expanded playoff that you're not a big fan of, that they make it. But they're not really a good team. But not a good team in the postseason can make it to the World Series. We saw that last year.
No. See, that is you. Like a sports fan like me, here's my chips. Let's go. Like, I'm listening to, and I got so excited I just knocked the camera over.
Smash the counter so hard the camera knocks over. See, this is what I'm talking about.
All right,
let's get to Dan Fates, 13 Web Sports. He's checking in from South Beach next on The Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Fan Rochester. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
The short week for the Buffalo Bills. Week 2 begins tonight in the NFL. It's the Bills and Dolphins, 8:15 for the kickoff. Chris Brown has the call tonight here on the Fan. One thing the Bills need is a big performance from the secondary.
And that's the group that's the most important because they have to play top down with sound, fundamental football and keep everything in front of them tonight and make the Dolphins go 10, 12 plays to reach the scoring territory and ultimately put points on the board.
Dolphins running back Devon Achane will be a game-time decision. We'll head to South Florida next. Dan Bates, 13 Wham, and Buffalo Plus joining us here in the Sports Bar. Brownie, Eric Wood, Sal Capaccio will have your call here on the Fan Rochester. Our pregame coverage begins at 4 p.m. Rochester Red Wings once again in Indianapolis tonight. The Wings looking to break a 5-game slide. The Major League schedule tonight highlighted by the Yankees and Red Sox. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
All right, our ears and eyes in South Beach for tonight's Dolphins-Bills matchup. Dan Fates, 13 Wham Sports, BuffaloPlus.com. I imagine, as it usually is this time of year in South Florida, that's a little bit swampy there, Dan. I'm curious, first and foremost, about how you're doing, how the weather is looking for tonight's matchup. I mean, South Florida this time of year, you usually do a pop-up thunderstorm every day. What time of day are we going to get that thunderstorm? Is it going to be around game time?
Yeah, that's what we're hearing. Who knows? They're scattered showers. Mike and I just parked before we're heading into the stadium and drove through a torrential downpour, and now there's sunshine. So, that's what this is in South Florida. It is what it is. I don't think I'm on the field, so there's always a chance this game could get delayed because every game that I film, there's a chance for horrendous weather. So that's what we're looking at right now.
All right, so going up against Tua and Waddle and certainly Tyreek Hill, how big a concern is this, Dan, knowing you have 2 new safeties in terms of starting assignments this year, and now you have new assignments at the nickel and the dime backing position. How do the Bills pull this off in that regard here tonight?
Yeah, Cam Lewis, I think, is the X factor in this game, and how he plays, I think, will dictate how the Bills' defense looks. Mike McDaniel is a very smart and gifted offensive mind. If I was him, I would be looking to attack Cam Lewis without Taron Johnson, who's out with the forearm injury. I'm not overly concerned about the safety position. I think they can do a decent enough job to try and keep some of that speed in front of them. I just don't know how much man coverage you can, play against all of this speed. We know Sean McDermott is all week. They're the fast, they're speed. But I think that you could put Tyreek Hill in the slot, cause mismatches there with Cam Lewis, who's coming off the best game of his career. 10 tackles, the second most on the team. He's going to need to do it again. He's going to need to have another career day for the Bills defense to hold strong tonight.
Dan, for as much attention as Greg Rousseau got for his performance, and deserved attention, AFC Defensive Player of the Week for his 3-sack performance last week against Arizona, we didn't talk a lot about the lack of production from the center of the defensive line. Mainly Ed Oliver didn't even appear on the stat sheet. Daquan Jones had a couple of clutch plays in that week 1 win. But how much of a key is it going to be for that center, the defensive tackles, to really disrupt Tua's rhythm in the middle of that defensive line for the Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, you got to get pressure up front. And I imagine just like how teams prepared for the Bills' offense in taking away Dalton Kincaid, I think teams were like, hey, we can't let Ed Oliver ruin games. Well, now Greg Rousseau ruined a game all by himself. So now that teams are going to start looking at, you got to double Greg Rousseau maybe a little bit more. That means Von Miller and Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver, they're the ones that are going to have to eat and kind of follow that up. Another performance from A.J. Epinesa. The running defense wasn't great. You can say James Conner is a good runner, and I agree, but they need to be better against a better running attack like the Miami Dolphins have. Devon Achane is a game-time decision. I would expect him to play. My only question is how explosive will he be with that ankle injury? But nonetheless, again, going back, Mike McDaniel knows how to have a great running attack, and Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones and those guys in the middle are going to have to kind of step up tonight.
We're talking to Dan Fates. He is in Florida with Mike Catalana, 13 Wham Buffalo Plus. Dan is on the other side of the ball. I'm trying to figure out where the game plan will be here. For Joe Brady, is he letting Josh be Josh, take your shots downfield, or do you see maybe more of a complementary style, knowing that maybe this front seven of the Dolphins isn't as what it used to be, more running the ball here tonight and pounding it up that way? How do you go about attacking the Dolphins here tonight?
I think you let Josh be Josh. I think that's key number one. But I think getting off to a better start and not falling behind 14 points, the Bills ran the ball well. It's just when you're down 14 points early, it's tough to consistently hand the ball off. That's just the way it is. Now, who's going to step up catching passes? I think I love this everybody eats motto and all of these things. 10 different Bills players were targeted last week by Josh Allen. 9 of them caught passes, but nobody caught more than 4, and nobody had more than 51. So you're still trying to piece together what this offense is actually going to look like. So I hope it's a little bit more easy at times. Last week on Sunday, I didn't think it was super in rhythm. And then you just had Josh going in the phone booth and putting on a Superman cape and coming out and winning the game. I don't think his hand's going to affect him all that much. I think maybe he'll be a little bit more protective when he runs with the ball. But besides that, I'd like to see Dalton Kincaid get involved early and often. I know he was triple-teamed and quadruple-teamed at times, and that opened up things for everybody else. But we kind of need Dalton Kincaid to be that number one pass catcher that the Bills and their fans thought he would be heading into the season.
We were talking earlier in the week, Dan, about whether or not it's sustainable for Josh Allen to perform the way he performed in Week 1.
Not.
Right? Everybody says it's not. Like, that's not a team's strategy going into the season. Hey, let's run our quarterback into the ground and grind him to a pulp. But at the same time, when you've had the kind of success that he has seen in his 7 years in Buffalo against this specific opponent, do you let Josh be Josh again this week for another week in hopes that gives you the best chance to win?
Well, Mike and I were just talking about it driving into the game, and Mike was saying that there used to be a time when the Dolphins just dominated the Bills. And at times it was, we just can't beat the Dolphins and all of those things. That hasn't been the case since Josh Allen arrived in Buffalo. Right now, Josh Allen is the boogeyman for the Dolphins. 11-2 in his career in his 7 years in the NFL. And so there is just that underlying faith and belief that, hey, I don't know how they're going to do it. I just think Josh is going to do something that you go, oh, yeah, it's against Miami. He'll win AFC Offensive Player of the Week because he's done that 5 times in his 12 games against the Dolphins. Like, there is just that belief of, like, he's just going to find a way. That's where I guess I kind of see this game shaking out. I'm trying to figure out, I'm still up in the air about the pick for this game, but let Josh just kind of continue, no matter who's the defensive coordinator in Miami, what game plan they have, whether it's cold, whether it's hot, Josh just seems to rise to the occasion against Miami.
Yeah, storylines that never happen. That's the topic here. And a storyline that really never happened was who's to blame from Week 1 because the Bills didn't lose. But if Arizona somehow pulled that out at the end, and granted, maybe you get a PI call, the question here, Dan, is about special teams because we would have been blaming the Bills letting up that return to DJ Dallas. Was just kind of a one-time thing, or can the Bills just kind of do the smart thing and kick it through the end zone every time here?
Well, I think there needs to be a little bit of context to that, Gene, because that was the end zone that there wasn't a single touchback all game long. I don't think the goal was to allow a return. I think Tyler Bass hit the snot out of the ball as far as it could, but when you're going into 25-mile-per-hour winds, neither way, kicking that direction, that's where they had the Bills had the long return coming away, running towards the tunnel, and then Tyler Bass kicked one out of bounds heading that same way. It was just gusty wind. Yeah, you can sit there and be like, it's the coaching decision. I don't know what else you could have done. Tyler Bass tried to get a touchback, and the wind just swatted it away. Bad gap, integrity, all these things. They're still trying to figure out what teams are going to do with this new kickoff rule. I'm not overreacting after 1 week of, hey, they let up a run, and, yeah, it looked bad because technically the Bills allowed, 10 or 11 points in the second half, but really only 3 defensively. So understand that I don't think it was a coaching mishap and more of Mother Nature dunking on the Bills.
Dan, there's a player that has switched sides, and I'm wondering how much of a factor he might actually be for his new defensive coordinator in Miami. That's Jordan Poyer. I mean, in preparation for this game, I'm sure that his mind has been tapped into by Miami's defensive coordinator, and that there's probably some adjustments that the Bills are going to have to make offensively, knowing that you've got a guy that's intimately aware of what you do on offense lining up across the field.
Yeah, Josh was asked about this week, and he kind of was like, yeah, he knows some of what we do offensively from going against us for 7 years, but I think there's a few other factors that don't make it as, like, sexy as a talking point of, like, Jordan Poyer knows what the Bills are going to do. They're going to have to change everything this week. Joe Brady's a relatively new offensive coordinator, obviously coming in the middle of last year, so it wasn't like they've had the same offensive coordinator for 7 years. And also, Josh kind of said, too, it's really tough for a safety to recognize a play or a call or a check at the line and then amongst the crowd noise, relay that to 10 other players on the field or the coaching staff to make a check. So while I think it's a cool talking point to be like, Jordan Poyer might know what the Bills are going to do. He's in the, think about all the things he knows. I don't really think that's going to be more of a factor than Josh knowing maybe than Jordan maybe knowing just like what everybody else sees. Josh is really good. He likes to maybe roll right more than he likes to roll left, things like that. But I don't think it's as big of a deal. I don't mean to poo-poo the question as it really necessarily may be.
Dan, you're down there. How much conversation, like how much coverage is the whole Tyreek Hill, getting pulled out of his car? Is that still got some legs here? Is that any potential distraction? What's being said down there?
I've seen it around here over the last 36 hours that we've been down here, but it doesn't seem like it's overly a distraction. Just from me seeing it from the outside looking in, I think it's more of a distraction is the fact that Tua was asked about, hey, you guys can't beat the Bills. And the fact that Mike McDaniel was asked this week, like, do the Bills own you guys? And he kind of was like, they've earned the division. You got to win the division. They have earned it for 4 straight years. Until we beat them, it's theirs. It made me think about when the Bills just couldn't beat the Patriots forever. Yeah. And even though Sean McDermott would come in and say, that's the past and things like that, they just continued to dominate them. And that's kind of where this rivalry, it's not really a rivalry when a team's won 11 out of the last 13 games, but it's a fun, sexy rivalry between two up-and-coming young quarterbacks that are the faces of their franchise and teams that have high expectations in playoffs and Super Bowls and things like that. But that's, to me, more of the talking point of here comes the boogeyman again for Miami. They did it last year in Week 18 to take the division again. And the Bills didn't really play that well, but it was Deontay Hardy. Like, that's what I'm saying. The Bills just seem to have something over the last 5 to 6 years that, minus the time they played on the surface of the sun, they have found a way to win a game against the Dolphins.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, like, and that timeline kind of coincides with Sean McDermott, becoming the best coach in the AFC East. And I wonder how much of that is McDermott recognizing what I think a lot of us see in terms of Tua Tagovailoa's limitations, his inability to throw an accurate ball more than 20 yards downfield and keeping everything in front of you defensively. I mean, yes, they have a lot of speed, but if you can't get the ball to your guys down the field because your defense is keeping everything in front of them, I mean, it feels kind of simple, but that's kind of what McDermott has done through the course of time here, hasn't he?
Yeah, and Tua's kind of refused to throw the ball over the middle of the field. It's something like Tua is what Tua is. We were just talking about it last night, the fact of the Dolphins had to pay Tua. Like, what is your backup plan? Skylar Thompson? The Cowboys had to pay Dak. Like, what's your backup plan? Tua is a good quarterback. He's a fine quarterback, is probably a better word, in a great system. So you can win with him, but when it comes, how many times do we say the game comes down to the quarterback? And I'm going to take the quarterback that has found ways to win games more than it has been not being able to make the plays down the stretch like Tua has, specifically in games against the Bills, in cold weather games, in important games late in the year. Tua's kind of come up a little bit short while Josh has always found a way.
Dan, last one for me, and it's about what we should expect from the crowd here tonight. And for those of us that haven't been down to the new stadium, new meaning it's refurbished, I mean, like when Josh Allen is at the line tonight and he wants to audible and maybe he's down in the red zone, how big a factor, if at all, is that Dolphin crowd tonight? Do we expect, what percentage of Bills fans will be in the crowd here tonight?
Gene, that's always – everybody loves talking about that, right? Bills takeover. This is not a knock at Bills fans by any means. This stadium probably holds around 65 to 70,000 fans, okay? and everybody loves to say there's thousands of Bills fans at this game, and there will be, but it may be 15,000, and the other 55 will be Dolphins fans. Everybody always talks about taking over the stadium. There will be Bills fans you will see on the lower side, lower bowl of the Bills side. I remember Week 18 when everybody was talking about it. It was so loud when the Bills had the football. It was tough to hear. This isn't going to be a crowd where Tua is going to have to go silent count at home. We have seen some Bills fans. It is great. This will still be 75-25 Dolphins fans here tonight. They do, the last 2 times we've been here, they have definitely, the buzz around this team is felt on game days, and they still have a really cool atmosphere and I would consider, pretty cool stadium.
Dan, I believe you're giving us a service by being our ears and eyes in South Beach, and hopefully we've provided you with the service as well as we've talked through the matchups of this game tonight. You said you haven't come down on which side of the ball you land here. Yeah. You don't know if you're going Miami or Buffalo, but we need you to break ties because Gene and I are split, and we need you to make a decision here on which side of the ball you're going to go with here.
All right. How about this for you? 31-30, Bills on a Tyler Bass field goal at the buzzer.
Wow. All right, we've got that. We rolled the tape on that. 31-30.
There you go.
I've got the Bills winning by a couple of Tyler Bass field goals, 20-14. I like the under in this game. And Gino, you said
I say if the Bills finally lose by double digits here, 32-22, the odds score here, Dan. I just think this is a bad spot, short week.
Sharp money is on the Dolphins. The Bills are now a 2.5-point underdog. They opened as a 1.5-point underdog, and the sharp money is also on the under. The interesting point, guys, is that I usually love the overs in week 2 because defenses will never be more sore and more tired than they are after week 1. Their bodies kind of adjust. I remember Chris Long talking about it on his Green Light podcast, that you're so sore and tired from week 1 because you haven't had that beating of a full game in quite some time. Afterwards, you kind of get used to it. But I usually like the overs in week 2 of games, so that's why I went with a higher score.
Even on a Thursday night primetime game with the short week of preparation.
That's the only thing Mike and I were talking about. We were wondering what the first Thursday of week 2, the Thursday game on week 2, what the trends are. I haven't taken a look at those yet, but Josh has always been pretty good as a small dog in his career against the spread. So that's another reason why I'll take the Bills in a very, very close, fun game.
Yeah, what was Allen's record again as an underdog? You mentioned earlier.
It was winning,
it was like 17-9 or something like that.
Yeah,
he's
very good.
Yeah,
he does well. Dan, stay safe down there. Have a lot of fun tonight. Look forward to your coverage at 13 Web Sports and, of course, on Buffalo Plus. You're doing a great job.
Thanks, guys. It's raining again.
Oh, here we go. We made it. We made it through the conversation, and we didn't talk any Major League Baseball with Fates. Is he still there?
No, he hung up.
Okay, good. All right,
He just hung up.
Whew. I was worried about you, Gino. I thought you were going to bring it up, even though you said you weren't going to bring it up.
No,
I was worried that you were going to bring it up.
Why would I? I'm a man of my word. And Fates wasn't going to bring it up because what is he going to say? Hey, we're trailing you?
Right. I'm just happy that we stuck to football. We got through and we didn't lose focus. We're looking squarely ahead to tonight's game.
I am going to go through all the tape of you and Catalana and Fates just making fun of me and other Mets fans. And look, if the Mets somehow have this miracle season.
Don't do this to yourself. Don't do this to yourself, man. Just don't do this to yourself. You're a friend. I don't want to see you in pain. Don't do this to yourself.
I'm listening with you in the car to the overnight guy in WFM. Why were we in the car? Were you at? No, we were coming back from Syracuse for high school football last week. And the guy should listen. Yes, this Mets team, they are World Series bound.
Oh, my God.
Wow. No, I laughed at that, but then you know what makes that a great take? I thought about it. Like, you know what? They have the makeup.
Oh, here we go. We're going to take a break, come back. We're leading you into Bill's pregame coming up here at the top of the hour. We still have time for your calls. Last call, the abbreviated sports bars, we like to call it the Heavy Lift Show. 866-4326 if you want to share your prediction for tonight. 585-866-4FAN.
AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Welcome back into the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia taking you up to pregame here at 4 o'clock. The Bills and the Dolphins tonight live from Miami, the Hard Rock Stadium. I've got the Bills. Gino's got the Dolphins. We broke ties with Dan Fates, who joined us just a few minutes ago. This is the Bills by 1.
on a walk-off shot by Tyler Bass.
I mean, there's a lot of outcomes that you could visualize with tonight's game, and that's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. I could certainly see Josh Allen scoring a walk-off TD, right? Like, there's so many unknowns going into this game, but the one thing that you do know is just the more recent dominance and how one-sided it's been. So that's got me feeling pretty good about the Bills' chances in South Beach. Tonight, we'll get pregame to you here at the top of the hour. And by the way, if you missed that conversation with Dan Fates from 13 Wham Sports, you can get that wherever you find your podcast. Just search out the Sports Bar, and that includes the free-to-download Odyssey app.
The show topic tomorrow, what happens tonight? So Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, will be joining us tomorrow on the show. And if you were wondering, yes, we will have weekly segments with Andy Behrens, Yahoo Fantasy, every Friday at 3:25, including tomorrow. So to help you optimize, set your lineup, maybe there's something sitting on the waiver wire that shouldn't be. Andy joins us tomorrow here in the Sports Bar.
You starting Achane tonight?
To be determined.
To be determined.
Well, I mean, if he's not active, I ain't start him. Yeah,
of course.
But
yes. I think I'm rolling with him being active. I guess that's where I'm at.
I think if he's out there, just because PPR, they're going to line him up in the slot.
Well, we'll have Andy with us. We'll discuss not just last night's outcome, but we'll look ahead to this weekend's action, set your lineup for fantasy football, and make you a fantasy football champion. That's what we're here for, man. We're here to give you those dubs in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia, and, of course, to recap everything that happened in South Beach. You mentioned it. Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, tomorrow afternoon at 4:25. Whew, I'm exhausted. I don't know about you. I need a nap. That's the heavy lift for us here in the Sports Bar, the 1 hour show. Go hydrate. Get ready for tonight. I'm going to sneak a mow in before kickoff.
I'm going for a dad run.
A little dad run for Gino.
Yeah.
I like it. All right.
By the way, I will be with Duffy tonight, Bill Gray's Tap Room in Shiloh. So come watch the game with me tonight.
Not a bad place to watch the game, especially if you're without your Amazon Prime. So there you go. The table is set. We'll give you Buffalo Bills pregame next on The Fan Rochester. Have a great night. Talk to you again tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock.